The heavy sound of metal bars sliding shut echoes through the dungeon, sealing the fate of those trapped inside. Our heroine, battered and exhausted, lies on the cold ground, surrounded by the grim reality of this filthy underground prison. The air is thick with despair, mirroring the hopelessness in her weary eyes. In the dim dungeon, a mysterious girl sits quietly, her face hidden beneath tattered bandages, despite her concealed features. One eye remains uncovered, shining with an undeniable sparkle. That single, beautiful eye captures a faint glimmer of life amidst the darkness. The heavy-set man steps forward, his voice cold and merciless as he declares the prisoners worthless and announces his grim intention to dispose of them. The chilling finality in his words leaves no room for hope. The heavy-set man turns back to the dungeon door, a sly grin spreading across his face as he admits that keeping the prisoners alive is costing him too much. Suddenly, the ground beneath them begins to tremble violently, shocking everyone into alarmed confusion. Suddenly, the dungeon floor erupts with a powerful impact, sending shockwaves through the air. The prisoners, battered and broken, struggle to comprehend the source of this violent tremor. One of the men, his body scarred and trembling, lets out a pained groan, tears streaming down his face as he fights to stay conscious. The protagonist, battered and desperate, looks up with wide, tear-filled eyes, her mind racing with pain and confusion as she silently questions what she could have possibly done to deserve such cruelty. Meanwhile, the heavy-set man's cruel grin widens as he callously demands some form of entertainment before their inevitable deaths. In this world, people are born with one of 6 natural magic affinities: fire, water, wind, earth, light, or dark. That shape their magical abilities. However, on rare occasions, someone is born with a rare affinity outside these 6. The protagonist, Flume Apricot, possesses the rare reversal affinity. Though her stats are all at 0, in stark contrast, Jean Intage with a nature affinity displays impressive stats across strength, endurance, perception, magic, and agility, his determined gaze cutting through the tension. The heavy-set man sneers as he grabs Jean by the collar, mocking him with a cruel question about his ability to defeat the demon lord. With a sudden, violent shove, he throws Jean to the ground, asserting his dominance and underestimating the protagonist's resolve. The protagonist reveals her rare reversal affinity, though all her stats remain at 0, leaving her true power a mystery she cannot even uncover with magic. Despite this, she perseveres, taking on odd jobs and helping others in any way she can. Determined, she sets off to prepare food, quietly pushing forward despite her uncertain abilities. The heroine, Cyril Swiechka, stands tall and composed, her impressive stats and hero affinity displayed prominently, reflecting her formidable power. The young man nervously greets her, wondering if she overheard the previous harsh words. Without a word, she turns and walks away, leaving an air of quiet strength behind. The protagonist reflects on Cyril Swiechka, the legendary hero destined to defeat the demon lord. They once shared a close bond, both coming from the countryside and being around the same age when their journey began. Now, standing alone beneath the open sky, the memories linger quietly. The young woman struggles desperately, demanding to be released, but the man named Jean coldly restrains her, showing no hesitation. A large, sinister figure approaches with a mocking grin, questioning the decision to take such a fine young girl. The woman's confusion and fear grow as Jean silences her harshly, asserting control over the situation. Jean's disdain cuts deep as he harshly belittles the young woman, mocking her lack of noble blood and power. He confesses his frustration at having tolerated her presence for so long, unable to comprehend why someone like her was chosen to face the demon lord. His words drip with contempt, making it clear she's seen as nothing more than a burden. The god of creation, Origin, declared 7 chosen heroes destined to slay the demon lord, and the townspeople, friends, and family all celebrated the protagonist's selection. Despite the overwhelming pressure, she couldn't back out, determined to fulfill her role. Yet, deep down, she questions her efforts and wonders if she should have given up, even as a cold voice warns her that she will be shown her proper place in the world. With a cold command, the man ignites a branding iron, declaring it will sear the protagonist with the mark of a slave. Her eyes widen in shock and fear, the weight of his cruel intent sinking in as the burning iron approaches. Just as the branding iron is about to burn her, a massive stone hand bursts through the wall, grabbing the protagonist and pulling her to safety. Desperation and fear overwhelm her as she screams out, refusing to accept the fate of slavery. As the protagonist prepares to go shopping, she runs into 2 familiar faces: Gadio, a sturdy Earth Affinity warrior, and Eterna, a powerful water mage. Gadio jokingly admits he's just there to carry Eterna's things, while the protagonist decides to tag along, mentioning she has errands to run as well. Though the journey drained her, the protagonist found comfort in her companion's support. Despite doubting her own worth, she clung to the hope of being chosen and believed justice would come for the wrongdoer. A reassuring, confident smile promises that she need not fear. The protagonist is horrified, screaming in disbelief as she struggles to accept the cruel truth about Cyril's harsh stance. Meanwhile, a smug figure boasts that the entire party agreed to this decision, highlighting Cyril's cold satisfaction at never having to see her face again. The shock leaves the protagonist desperate, clinging to the hope that this must be a lie. In a brutal clash, the protagonist unleashes a fierce attack, questioning if this devastating display is all she has to prove her worth. The raw intensity of the moment is mirrored in her agonized scream, revealing the physical and emotional toll of the fight. Cornered and desperate, the protagonist faces a grim reality. Without a weapon, defeating a ghoul is impossible. A gruff voice points out the massive sword hanging on the wall, suggesting that with a bit of magic, even a weak slave could defend themselves by knocking it down. Desperately grabbing the massive sword, he feels an intense heat spreading through his body. Confused and terrified, he watches in horror as his flesh begins to melt away, revealing the skeletal structure beneath. Panic sets in as he realizes his body is literally dissolving before his eyes. As the protagonist screams in agony, his body continues to dissolve, melting away like wax. The gruff figure laughs cruelly, mocking his suffering with a cold, "Ah, too bad." Meanwhile, the cursed sword lies on the ground, its dark presence ominous as the truth about its deadly nature is revealed. Trapped behind bars, the protagonist desperately begs for mercy, promising to work hard if only his life is spared. Meanwhile, the cruel figure chuckles, realizing they forgot to warn him about the deadly curse. As the protagonist's pleas echo, the ominous silence returns, leaving him alone in his grim fate. The protagonist, broken and desperate, pleads for mercy, insisting she did nothing wrong and begging not to die here. The cruel figure mocks her suffering, calling her foul-smelling and blaming her for her fate, showing no sympathy as he coldly declares she brought this on herself. The hopelessness of her situation deepens as the bars close in around her trembling form. The cruel figure's fury boils over as he lashes out, accusing the protagonist of scamming him and wasting his hard-earned money. He bitterly recalls paying a fortune to acquire her, only to be deceived by her false claim of being a hero party member. With merciless contempt, he declares her worthless trash, unfit even to be a servant, and orders her to just roll over and die as payback. The cruel figure taunts her with a twisted challenge, mocking her desperation by telling her all she has to do is pick up the sword if she doesn't want to die. His laughter echoes menacingly as the sword looms ominously, while tears stream down the protagonist's face, a mix of fear and hopelessness gripping her. Torn between surrender and resistance, she realizes that either choice leads to her death. Whether broken limb by limb or fading away in defiance, the sword lies between her and her fate, a grim symbol of the impossible decision she faces. Despite the despair, a faint spark of resolve flickers in her outstretched hand. Her trembling hand reaches out, a fragile but determined spark igniting within her as she resolves to face whatever fate awaits. The weight of despair presses down, yet she refuses to simply give in. With every drop of blood falling from her battered body, she steels herself for the impossible choice ahead. The monstrous figure screams in agony as it is struck with fierce force, its body shattering under the impact. Amid the chaos, the protagonist's resolve blazes brighter than ever. Refusing to surrender, she declares she'd rather fall fighting than give up now. The fallen sword lies nearby, a silent challenge to push just a bit further. Exhausted and battered, she struggles to reach the fallen sword, her trembling hand barely grasping the hilt. Surrounded by grotesque, clawing figures, she gathers her remaining strength, whispering that now she can finally. The moment hangs heavy with desperate determination as she prepares to rise once more. A heavy silence fills the air, broken only by the faint, unsettling murmurs of the three broken figures before a cracked stone wall. Their weary, confused expressions hint at a shared uncertainty. Something unexpected has shifted in this grim moment. Confusion ripples through the broken figures as they exchange uncertain glances. Their weariness deepening, the protagonist, still seated and battered, notices something strange. Her injuries are beginning to fade, sparking a flicker of hope amid the despair. The protagonist finally grasps the sword, surprised by its unexpected lightness. From behind bars, a bewildered figure struggles to comprehend how she managed it. With renewed strength, she lifts the blade, ready to face what lies ahead. With fierce determination, she swings the sword in a powerful arc, sending her enemies flying through the air. Her eyes burn with renewed resolve as the force of her strike shatters the battlefield around her. The roar of pain from her foes echoes, marking a turning point in the fight. As the dust settles, the battlefield lies in ruins, silence hanging heavy in the air. Our hero stands alone, sword in hand, her expression a mix of awe and contemplation. From behind the bars, a stunned figure watches, unable to grasp the sudden shift in power. The heavy bars swing open with a loud clang, sending the stunned figure sprawling backward in shock. Desperately, he pleads for mercy, urging the protagonist not to kill him and offering her freedom. But his fearful expression reveals he knows the situation has already slipped beyond his control. A fragile silence envelopes her as she slowly realizes the weight of her survival. Barefoot and battered, she looks upward with wide, tear-filled eyes, whispering the truth she can hardly believe. She's allowed to live. The moment hangs heavy, a fragile hope blossoming amid the ruins. The protagonist examines the sword in her hands, puzzled and uncertain about its power. She notices a glowing mark on her palm, realizing the weapon is actually epic equipment, not cursed as she had feared. A detailed explanation reveals that epic gear can be summoned or stored in a pocket dimension by its owner, and that equipment is ranked from common to epic, with epic being the strongest tier. Setting her doubts aside for the moment, a hand reaches out to her with a simple yet powerful invitation. Let's escape together. The protagonist, battered and weary, looks up with a flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. The protagonist notices the other girl watching her intently, her eyes wide and unblinking like a doll's. A flicker of nervousness crosses the protagonist's face as she senses the weight behind those eyes. The girl finally breaks the silence, asking hesitantly if the protagonist is her new master. The girl, battered and vulnerable, questions the protagonist's intentions, doubting why someone would want her if she's just a slave. The protagonist hesitates, caught off guard by the harsh reality behind the girl's words. A quiet tension fills the air as the girl wonders if she's merely a tool to be used, leaving the protagonist to grapple with the weight of that painful truth. The girl, fragile and worn, confesses her fear of having no master, revealing how deeply ingrained her identity as a slave is. It's clear she's never known any relationship beyond that of master and slave, a harsh reality that defines her entire existence. The weight of her chains and the whip beside her serve as grim reminders of the life she's trapped in. With a resigned sigh, she finally agrees, her voice barely steady as she says, "Fine." The protagonist reflects on their uncertain motives, admitting they had no clear reason for their actions, only a deep fear of loneliness. Reaching out, they gently take her hand, promising, "From now on, I'll be your master." The two girls introduce themselves, Flume Apricot and Milkit, each extending a hand in greeting, their worn cloaks billowing behind them. As they ascend a long staircase toward a radiant light, Milkit expresses her gratitude, calling the protagonist master. This moment marks a fateful beginning, the spark that set everything into motion. The tension rises as the protagonist, gripping a dark, ominous sword, stands resolute beside a mysterious maid with a bandaged eye. Blood splatters and eerie shadows swirl around them, hinting at the dangerous path ahead. Together, they brace for the challenges that await in the heart of the kingdom. The screen fades to white, leaving only the bold, sharp logo of Comic Ride in vibrant pink. A striking pause before the next chapter of the journey unfolds. The screen fades to white, leaving only the bold, sharp logo of Comic Ride in vibrant pink. A striking pause before the next chapter of the journey unfolds. The protagonist senses a newfound power awakening within, something they've never felt before. Could this mysterious energy be mana, the source of magical strength? With focused intent, they quietly reaffirm the spell's name, Scan. The protagonist senses a newfound power awakening within, something they've never felt before. Could this mysterious energy be mana, the source of magical strength? With focused intent, they quietly reaffirm the spell's name, Scan. The protagonist's eyes widen in shock as the scan reveals the sword's true nature. It drastically lowers every stat, from strength to body, seemingly a curse meant to weaken its wielder. Yet, standing strong with the sword in hand, they realize this is no ordinary curse. It's a powerful reversal that defies despair itself. The protagonist's eyes widen in shock as the scan reveals the sword's true nature. It drastically lowers every stat, from strength to body, seemingly a curse meant to weaken its wielder. Yet, standing strong with the sword in hand, they realize this is no ordinary curse. It's a powerful reversal that defies despair itself. The protagonist realizes they've finally succeeded in wielding the sword, a feat that required a magic attribute of at least one. A quiet confidence emerges as they admit knowing how to use it all along, but only now managing to harness its power, despite a brief moment of distraction. They remind themselves to stay focused, ready to face what comes next. The protagonist realizes they've finally succeeded in wielding the sword, a feat that required a magic attribute of at least one. A quiet confidence emerges as they admit knowing how to use it all along, but only now managing to harness its power, despite a brief moment of distraction. They remind themselves to stay focused, ready to face what comes next. The protagonist examines the soul-devouring Zweihander, noting its enchantments that supposedly decrease all stats and even melt the wielder's body. Yet, despite these warnings, their body feels surprisingly light, and instead of harm, their wounds begin to heal, confirming the reversal nature of the sword's power. Their companion, puzzled, questions the idea of decreasing stats, reflecting the unexpected twist in the weapon's true effect. The protagonist examines the soul-devouring Zweihander, noting its enchantments that supposedly decrease all stats and even melt the wielder's body. Yet, despite these warnings, their body feels surprisingly light, and instead of harm, their wounds begin to heal, confirming the reversal nature of the sword's power. Their companion, puzzled, questions the idea of decreasing stats, reflecting the unexpected twist in the weapon's true effect. The companion voices doubt, acknowledging the weapon's cursed appearance but questioning why it seems to act so differently. The protagonist reflects quietly, realizing the effect is completely reversed. Their eyes widen in sudden understanding as the word reversed echoes in their mind. The companion voices doubt, acknowledging the weapon's cursed appearance but questioning why it seems to act so differently. The protagonist reflects quietly, realizing the effect is completely reversed. Their eyes widen in sudden understanding as the word reversed echoes in their mind. The protagonist stands firm, eyes wide with newfound clarity as they reveal the truth. Their attribute is reversal. Instead of weakening, the curse's effects actually increase and heal, turning everything completely upside down. This shocking realization marks a turning point, as what once seemed like a curse now becomes an incredible source of strength. The protagonist stands firm, eyes wide with newfound clarity as they reveal the truth. Their attribute is reversal. Instead of weakening, the curse's effects actually increase and heal, turning everything completely upside down. This shocking realization marks a turning point, as what once seemed like a curse now becomes an incredible source of strength. A burst of genuine laughter escapes the protagonist, their joy echoing through the air as they finally grasp the truth behind the stubborn mark. With a bright smile, they realize the mark's nature was hidden in plain sight all along. This is why it went unnoticed before. The moment is filled with a light-hearted relief, breaking the tension with newfound understanding. A burst of genuine laughter escapes the protagonist, their joy echoing through the air as they finally grasp the truth behind the stubborn mark. With a bright smile, they realize the mark's nature was hidden in plain sight all along. This is why it went unnoticed before. The moment is filled with a light-hearted relief, breaking the tension with newfound understanding. The protagonist excitedly explains their unique attribute. They become stronger when using cursed equipment. They admit they hadn't noticed this before because it's not a typical ability to rely on, but now they understand exactly how to harness it. Their enthusiasm shines through as they share this newfound revelation. The protagonist excitedly explains their unique attribute. They become stronger when using cursed equipment. They admit they hadn't noticed this before because it's not a typical ability to rely on, but now they understand exactly how to harness it. Their enthusiasm shines through as they share this newfound revelation. The protagonist tries to gauge Milket's reaction but finds it surprisingly weak. Noting she isn't one to easily show her feelings, they laugh nervously, acknowledging that this moment is significant for them even if it doesn't seem to be for Milket. As they examine the mark on Milket's hand, they realize it's stubbornly permanent, suspecting it was made with some special paint. An attribute they once thought useless now feels oddly meaningful. The protagonist tries to gauge Milket's reaction but finds it surprisingly weak. Noting she isn't one to easily show her feelings, they laugh nervously, acknowledging that this moment is significant for them even if it doesn't seem to be for Milket. As they examine the mark on Milket's hand, they realize it's stubbornly permanent, suspecting it was made with some special paint. An attribute they once thought useless now feels oddly meaningful. The protagonist reflects on their stagnant stats, unchanged since birth, yet admits to feeling oddly content with the current situation. They acknowledge the urgency as the sun begins to set, emphasizing the need to earn money to survive. With newfound resolve and power to fight, they decide to head toward the West Quarter without delay. The protagonist reflects on their stagnant stats, unchanged since birth, yet admits to feeling oddly content with the current situation. They acknowledge the urgency as the sun begins to set, emphasizing the need to earn money to survive. With newfound resolve and power to fight, they decide to head toward the west quarter without delay. The protagonist sits alone beneath the twisted, barren tree, the weight of solitude pressing down as the desolate landscape stretches around them. A quiet revelation surfaces. Flume has returned to her hometown, leaving the hero to face their burdens once more in isolation. The protagonist sits alone beneath the twisted, barren tree, the weight of solitude pressing down as the desolate landscape stretches around them. A quiet revelation surfaces. Flume has returned to her hometown, leaving the hero to face their burdens once more in isolation. The man coldly explains that Cyril was convinced to return alone because traveling together was impossible, implying she was useless to them from the start. The group confirms this harsh judgment, leaving Cyril silently grappling with the weight of their cruel words, realizing just how deeply she has been hurt. The man coldly explains that Cyril was convinced to return alone because traveling together was impossible, implying she was useless to them from the start. The group confirms this harsh judgment, leaving Cyril silently grappling with the weight of their cruel words, realizing just how deeply she has been hurt. Despite insisting they are not friends, Cyril quietly admits that Flume was a treasured companion who kept her grounded. She reflects on how she would have broken under the weight of her responsibilities without Flume's presence. Alone beneath the twisted tree, she painfully acknowledges her own ungratefulness. Despite insisting they are not friends, Cyril quietly admits that Flume was a treasured companion who kept her grounded. She reflects on how she would have broken under the weight of her responsibilities without Flume's presence. Alone beneath the twisted tree, she painfully acknowledges her own ungratefulness. Cyril, burdened and vulnerable, is described as the perfect material for the man's plans. He steps forward confidently, declaring that the obstacle in his path is gone, and asserts himself as the only man worthy to stand beside her with cold resolve. He insists on a partner equal or superior to himself to continue his bloodline. Cyril, burdened and vulnerable, is described as the perfect material for the man's plans. He steps forward confidently, declaring that the obstacle in his path is gone, and asserts himself as the only man worthy to stand beside her with cold resolve. He insists on a partner equal or superior to himself to continue his bloodline. Despite his hard work and rise to the position of sage, he can't shake the frustration that Cyril remains influenced by the one he despises. He clenches his fists in anger, questioning why that piece of trash still lingers in Cyril's life, even as he acknowledges the inevitable bonds that captivate great people. Despite his hard work and rise to the position of sage, he can't shake the frustration that Cyril remains influenced by the one he despises. He clenches his fists in anger, questioning why that piece of trash still lingers in Cyril's life, even as he acknowledges the inevitable bonds that captivate great people. The protagonist exhales deeply, a mix of frustration and resolve etched on his face. Standing atop a rocky precipice, he reflects on the path he's paved for Cyril, determined to erase the lingering influence of Flume. Despite the weight of the past, he steels himself to guide Cyril's heart toward a better future. The protagonist exhales deeply, a mix of frustration and resolve etched on his face. Standing atop a rocky precipice, he reflects on the path he's paved for Cyril, determined to erase the lingering influence of Flume. Despite the weight of the past, he steels himself to guide Cyril's heart toward a better future. In the royal capital's west quarter, public safety is notoriously poor, yet even tramps and slaves are expected to find work. At a rough tavern, a woman sneers at the idea of slaves becoming adventurers, dismissing them with cruel words and low expectations. In the royal capital's west quarter, public safety is notoriously poor, yet even tramps and slaves are expected to find work. At a rough tavern, a woman sneers at the idea of slaves becoming adventurers, dismissing them with cruel words and low expectations. The protagonist asks for an adventurer's license despite the harsh mockery, and the woman behind the counter offers to introduce them to the right establishment. The Adventurers Guild, a tavern that serves as an introduction center, requires completing a simple F-rank quest before granting a license and reward. Nearby, cruel laughter and lewd insults continue, highlighting the harsh reality slaves face in this world. The protagonist asks for an adventurer's license despite the harsh mockery, and the woman behind the counter offers to introduce them to the right establishment. The Adventurers Guild, a tavern that serves as an introduction center, requires completing a simple F-rank quest before granting a license and reward. Nearby, cruel laughter and lewd insults continue, highlighting the harsh reality slaves face in this world. The protagonist feels the cold, judgmental stares of the quarter as cruel laughter erupts when their shoulder is deliberately bumped. Observing a slave nearby, they realize this harsh treatment is just everyday abuse for her, as she endures even being tripped without complaint. Meanwhile, A group of rowdy men mockingly discuss her appearance, dismissing her as a monster unworthy of their interest. The protagonist feels the cold, judgmental stares of the quarter as cruel laughter erupts when their shoulder is deliberately bumped. Observing a slave nearby, they realize this harsh treatment is just everyday abuse for her, as she endures even being tripped without complaint. Meanwhile, a group of rowdy men mockingly discuss her appearance, dismissing her as a monster unworthy of their interest. The laughter and mockery escalate as the crowd openly doubts the protagonist's worth, sneering that he would even stoop to hunting stray dogs. Yet, with a calm and confident smile, he steps forward, silencing the room with his poised presence. A commanding hand gesture warns the onlookers to keep their voices down, shifting the atmosphere in an instant. The laughter and mockery escalate as the crowd openly doubts the protagonist's worth, sneering that he would even stoop to hunting stray dogs. Yet, with a calm and confident smile, he steps forward, silencing the room with his poised presence. A commanding hand gesture warns the onlookers to keep their voices down, shifting the atmosphere in an instant. A confident A-rank adventurer, Dane-san, greets the protagonist warmly, urging Isla to be more welcoming despite the dangers of the West Quarter. He emphasizes that survival after receiving a license depends entirely on one's ability, not on social status, reminding her that being a slave or noble means nothing in the face of true challenges. A confident A-rank adventurer, Dane-san, greets the protagonist warmly, urging Isla to be more welcoming despite the dangers of the West Quarter. He emphasizes that survival after receiving a license depends entirely on one's ability, not on social status, reminding her that being a slave or noble means nothing in the face of true challenges. The protagonist watches as the once stern receptionist falls silent, clearly unsettled by Dane's confident assurance that the door should be wide open. Despite her hesitation, she reluctantly hands over the F-rank quest. Deliver one werewolf fong. Trusting Dane's judgment, the tension lingers, but the mission is now officially theirs to undertake. The protagonist watches as the once stern receptionist falls silent, clearly unsettled by Dane's confident assurance that the door should be wide open. Despite her hesitation, she reluctantly hands over the F-rank quest. Deliver one werewolf fong. Trusting Dane's judgment, the tension lingers, but the mission is now officially theirs to undertake. The protagonist receives confirmation that completing the quest will earn her the license she's been striving for. Dane Phineas, an A-rank adventurer affiliated with the guild, introduces himself warmly and reassures her not to worry. Their handshake seals a new alliance, filling her with hope and determination. The protagonist receives confirmation that completing the quest will earn her the license she's been striving for. Dane Phineas, an A-rank adventurer affiliated with the guild, introduces himself warmly and reassures her not to worry. Their handshake seals a new alliance, filling her with hope and determination. The protagonist and her companion prepare to embark on their quest, with the companion reassuring her that ghouls and similar monsters should be manageable at the F-rank level. Despite the challenges ahead, she resolves to trust in their alliance and the hope it brings, determined to succeed against the odds. The protagonist and her companion prepare to embark on their quest, with the companion reassuring her that ghouls and similar monsters should be manageable at the F-rank level. Despite the challenges ahead, she resolves to trust in their alliance and the hope it brings, determined to succeed against the odds. Dine smugly admits to giving the protagonist a D-rank quest while telling her it was F-rank. Raising her bar under false pretenses, his companion reacts with shock, knowing how much harder a D-rank quest is, while Dine coldly dismisses the girls who failed as dead, claiming she lacks talent unlike himself. Dine smugly admits to giving the protagonist a D-rank quest while telling her it was F-rank. Raising her bar under false pretenses, his companion reacts with shock, knowing how much harder a D-rank quest is, while Dine coldly dismisses the girls who failed as dead, claiming she lacks talent unlike himself. Dine's laughter echoes as he boasts about colluding with the guild to manipulate high-reward quests. He casually drinks, revealing how he controls other adventurers from the West Quarter, inflating their ranks in exchange for a cut of their rewards. Despite lacking true talent, he has climbed to A rank through these underhanded tricks and schemes. Dane Phineas, known as the Daring Dastard, smirks with cold confidence, his malicious intent hidden beneath a casual facade. Meanwhile, the woman behind the bar watches silently, lamenting the tragic waste of potential she sees all around her. As the two walk beneath the canopy of trees, a sudden, heavy question hangs in the air, one that reveals deeper insecurities and the fragile bond forming between them. The journey of these two newly acquainted souls begins with a quiet tension, hinting at the struggles that lie ahead. A fragile honesty unfolds between them as she admits she doesn't find him disgusting, just a little strange. Despite her doubts about fitting in, she questions why he keeps her around, suggesting perhaps it's loneliness that binds them. Yet, she challenges the idea of belonging, wondering if she's better off sold and replaced, revealing the deep scars of her past and the complexity of their growing connection. Haunted by feelings of helplessness and worthlessness, she reflects on the painful truth that she was unknowingly sold as a slave, doubting her own value and purpose. Yet, a flicker of meaning emerges in the thought that if her existence can bring happiness to Milkit, then perhaps her life holds some worth after all. Despite this, she struggles to understand why her master would want her happy, questioning if she truly deserves any kindness as a slave. By sheer chance, she ended up on the same ship, a twist of fate that saved her and led to her being brought along. Despite everything, he had already accepted her as his, with no intention of selling her again. Even so, uncertainty lingers as she contemplates their bond and her place beside him. She hesitantly voices her deepest insecurity, asking if he is truly okay with having her by his side. Her wide, searching eyes reveal the vulnerability behind her question, desperate for reassurance. Beneath the bandages lies a hidden horror, something pitiable, grotesque, and suffering, even disgusting. Yet, despite this, the protagonist feels a deep sense of duty to Milkit, drawn by an inexplicable connection. He notices that, even amid the pain, her eyes remain beautiful, stirring conflicting emotions within him. The protagonist recalls Eterna's teachings. In this kingdom, healing is the realm of priests and nuns, not doctors. While light-based recovery magic can cure most ailments without medicine or surgery, some poisons, like mustard poison, are incurable and lack antidotes, leaving a dangerous inflammation that magic cannot fix. He gently reaches out, assuring her not to worry since mustard poison won't spread to others. Surprised, he recalls that his previous master warned him this poison was contagious, meaning it's a different kind of toxin altogether. The protagonist reflects on how cold and fearful her former master's warnings must have been, lacking any real emotion or comfort. Despite her protests and desperate pleas, the master insists on doing something she clearly fears. His bitter thoughts reveal a deep cynicism. This world is filled with corrupt people who prey on the innocent and weak, always deceiving and lying to others. He firmly declares his commitment to be her master despite her previous master's bleak judgment that her face could no longer be healed. He explains that while recovery magic can't cure her condition, medicine should be able to, but the kingdom's strict laws, enforced by the Church of Origin, have banned the making of medicine, causing apothecaries to disappear. The protagonist reassures herself that she knows the ingredients needed and plans to ask an acquaintance for help when the time comes. She places her hope in Eterna, a kind and graceful magician willing to share her knowledge and make the medicine. Trusting that everyone involved will consent, despite her doubts, she resolves to find out for sure by asking directly. Determined to face the day ahead, he urges them to push through without hesitation. She acknowledges the urgency, feeling a rare flush of emotion, while he quietly notes her unexpected blush with a mix of surprise and embarrassment. As they prepare to move forward, the moment lingers between them, charged with unspoken feelings. The group assesses the werewolf stats, realizing its total surpasses 500, classifying it as a D-rank monster instead of the expected F-rank. Frustration grows as they acknowledge they've been deceived by Dane and the West District Guild. One character mutters a harsh comparison, implying Dane's true nature, while another questions how the mission could have been so misleading. Confident in their growth, the protagonist reveals their total stats just shy of 1,000, claiming they are no longer weak and bolstered by healing abilities that guarantee victory. As they prepare to move on, a sudden rustling in the shadows hints at an approaching threat, revealing the imposing figures of multiple werewolves emerging from the darkness. The group notes the arrival of a fifth werewolf, recognizing their pack behavior as part of the same wolf family. However, one of the creatures moves awkwardly, catching their attention and raising suspicion. The protagonist's expression shifts to surprise as they notice something unusual about the werewolf's movements. The werewolf's body begins to twist and contort unnaturally, its form warping as if something inside is struggling to break free. Its agonized growl echoes, revealing the intense pain and confusion within the creature. The werewolf's twisted form suddenly splits apart, revealing a second head emerging from its body with a sharp, stabbing motion. The other werewolves react in shock and confusion as the creature trembles violently, struggling to control the painful transformation. Blood splatters as the new head takes shape, intensifying the eerie and unsettling sight. The werewolf lets out a fierce, terrifying growl as it lunges forward aggressively. Nearby, another werewolf cautiously approaches, carrying an unconscious figure in its arms, while the others watch in stunned silence, unable to comprehend the bizarre transformation unfolding before them. The creature's body suddenly grows larger, its monstrous form expanding with raw power. One of the werewolves urgently calls out, stunned by the transformation. The Chimera prototype's stats flash, revealing its impressive strength, stamina, and agility as it looms ominously. The young hero processes the shocking revelation that the creature is a Chimera prototype with an unbelievably high C-rank stat total. As the beast's fierce glare fixes on him, he freezes in alarm, realizing the true danger he faces. With a powerful leap, the Chimera prototype lunges forward, clutching the unconscious girl tightly as it charges through the chaos. The young hero's eyes widen in shock and determination, realizing the stakes have just escalated even further. The Chimera prototype's arm detaches with a sickening snap, flying through the air as it screams in agony. A violent whirlwind erupts around the young hero and the unconscious girl, who watches in stunned disbelief. The tension skyrockets as the spinning vortex threatens to engulf them both. The vortex intensifies, swirling violently as the young hero calls out desperately for Milkit. Meanwhile, the Chimera prototype, wounded but still menacing, stands amid the destruction, its body sizzling with residual energy. The tension peaks as the hero races forward, eyes wide with determination and fear. The Chimera prototype crashes violently into the ground, debris flying everywhere as its body twists in midair. Below, the young hero, battered but resolute, assesses the damage. Noting the severity of the injury to their leg, despite the pain, they call out with determination, refusing to give up. The Chimera prototype twitches, its monstrous form trembling as it lets out a guttural roar, clearly battered but far from defeated. The young hero's eyes narrow with resolve, acknowledging the immense challenge ahead as they wonder aloud what their next move should be. The tension mounts, the fight far from over. The massive Chimera prototype roars in pain as cracks form on its body, revealing the immense power of its earth attribute. Our hero carefully observes, noting the unmistakable signs of earth magic at work, preparing for the next move in this intense encounter. The Chimera prototype charges fiercely, its roar echoing through the battlefield. Our hero analyzes its predictable attack pattern, preparing to evade the oncoming strike. With precise timing, they plan to dodge the assault and let the beast rush past, turning its aggression against itself. With fierce determination, our hero lunges forward, shouting their intent to cut the beast down. Suddenly, they sense something unexpected, their eyes widening in surprise. As they move swiftly, a new opportunity emerges. A single strike to the rear could turn the tide of this battle. Our hero watches in shock as the Chimera prototype uses its own wound to twist its upper body, defying expectations. The deep scratch on its shoulder should have been a critical weakness, but the injury instantly bursts open, revealing an unexpected resilience. The protagonist's plan is thrown into jeopardy as they realize the beast's regenerative power is far greater than anticipated. The protagonist screams in agony as their arm is violently twisted and crushed, the pain overwhelming them. Their wide eyes reflect shock and disbelief at the sudden, brutal injury. Desperation and agony consume them as they struggle against the crushing force. Thrown violently to the ground, the protagonist clutches their mangled arm in agony. Their breath ragged and desperate, blood drips onto the grass as they struggle to comprehend the overwhelming power before them. Staring up at the towering, monstrous figure, disbelief and fear grip their voice. What kind of abomination is this? The protagonist realizes their strength pales in comparison to the beast's, making a direct fight impossible. As the creature's wound quickly regenerates, they acknowledge the futility of a strength contest and the danger of the beast's unpredictable attacks. Despite the odds, they steel themselves, questioning who the true monster really is as the creature lunges forward once again. With fierce determination, the protagonist leaps onto the beast, driving a powerful kick into its face. The monstrous creature reels back in pain, roaring in agony as the hero's attack lands. Seizing the moment, the protagonist launches themselves upward, aiming a devastating strike at the beast's towering form. The protagonist taunts the beast, confident in their ability to anticipate its attacks. As the creature's massive fist crashes down, the hero leaps upward, declaring they can read its movements. The tension builds as the devastating strike is about to land. The protagonist's confidence surges as they sense the beast's movements through their hands. With swift precision, they strike, driving a powerful attack straight through the creature's chest. The beast howls in pain, blood erupting as the hero's blow lands decisively. The protagonist inspects the massive, discarded head of the beast, questioning its nature while noting it's the part that was severed. As they focus on their task of collecting werewolf fangs, a chilling realization dawns. The severed head is still alive, its claws digging into the ground. The severed head, still alive, claws desperately dig into the ground as it struggles to move. Suddenly, The monstrous body violently bursts apart, limbs and flesh tearing as the creature's form collapses in a gruesome explosion of blood and gore. The horrifying scene underscores the beast's unnatural resilience and the brutal aftermath of the hero's strike. The protagonist's shock deepens as they witness the grotesque aftermath. The monstrous limbs, torn and twitching, begin to move on their own. Confused and horrified, they struggle to comprehend the unnatural sight before them. The remnants of the beast still writhing despite its destruction. The unsettling scene raises urgent questions about the creature's true nature and the danger that still lingers. The protagonist grimaces in pain as the grotesque, dismembered creature lunges forward with surprising force. Despite its slow movement, the hero knows escaping is their only option for now. Just as they begin to flee, a sudden sharp pain catches them off guard, intensifying the desperate situation. The hero staggers, clutching their arm as something unseen invades the wound from the beast's bite. Panic and pain surge through them, their body trembling as the infection spreads rapidly. Desperation mounts with the terrifying realization that time is running out. The protagonist, drenched in sweat and trembling, questions their own resolve amidst the overwhelming pain and fear. Despite being scared of others hurting them, they push through the agony, desperately wondering if they truly have the strength to continue. The weight of doubt and suffering presses down, but they refuse to give up. The pain surges relentlessly, spreading through the hero's body as their vision blurs with sweat and exhaustion. Every heartbeat echoes the agony, a cruel reminder that time is slipping away. Despite the torment, they steel themselves, knowing there's no other choice but to push forward. In a desperate surge of will, the protagonist unleashes a fierce, primal scream as they slash through the air, breaking free from the torment that grips their body. The violent motion sends shards of their pain and fear scattering, a raw display of their unyielding spirit. The hero struggles to steady their breath, knowing that fleeing now would mean remaining weak and unchanged. They realize that their survival is tied to someone dear, and that to truly become a hero, they must stand and fight despite the fear and pain. With renewed resolve, they push forward, determined to face the challenge head-on. With a fierce battle cry, the protagonist charges forward, their eyes blazing with determination. They declare boldly that this time, they will be the hero, channeling every ounce of strength into a powerful strike. The force of their attack crashes down on the monstrous foe, shaking the ground beneath them. The protagonist readies their arm for one final, decisive slash. Determined to end the fight now, they reflect on how either their familiarity with the foe or its slowing movements have shifted the battle's pace. Knowing that a close-range fight is too dangerous, they resolve to restrict the enemy's movements before it's too late. With a fierce yell, the protagonist lunges forward, gripping their sword tightly. They bring it down with a powerful swing aimed at the massive tree trunk, determined to trap the foe by cutting through its surroundings. The impact sends shockwaves through the air, signaling the start of their strategic assault. The protagonist times their landing perfectly as the foe's movements halt. Using the moment to launch a fierce, decisive strike, with a battle cry, they swing their sword down, aiming to break the enemy's footing and keep it trapped. The ground erupts where their blade connects, shaking the battlefield. The protagonist's strike lands with devastating force, shattering the ground beneath the foe and causing it to stagger violently. Seizing the moment, they leap away swiftly, narrowly avoiding the creature's desperate, twitching counterattack. The battlefield trembles as the foe struggles to regain its footing, while the hero prepares for the next move. With fierce determination, the protagonist calls out, commanding the Soul Eater to return. Their voice echoes through the battlefield as they prepare to unleash their next decisive move. With a fierce shout, the protagonist delivers the finishing blow, their weapon crashing down with unstoppable force. The impact shatters the foe's defenses, sending debris flying as the enemy reels from the devastating strike. The battle reaches its critical climax in this explosive moment. Though the protagonist has long lived as an emotionless doll, indifferent even to their own master's fate, a faint glimmer of something stirs within. Despite the harsh reality that hope feels useless, a subtle connection begins to form, hinting at a shift in their hardened heart. The girl, holding a small bundle, quietly announces her return to Milkit, her presence gentle yet resolute. The protagonist's eyes soften, reflecting a deep, unspoken emotion as they hear the familiar voice. A rare warmth blooms within, as they admit to sincerely waiting for their master's return, breaking through their long-held emotional barriers. A gentle voice breaks the silence, softly welcoming the master back. The words carry a quiet warmth, marking a tender moment of reunion beneath the fading light. As night falls, the girl reflects on the unexpected turn of events and the corrupt nature of the guild she now opposes. Meanwhile, a wounded beast lies on the ground, whispering a plea for atonement to someone named Flume. Laughter echoes through the dim alley as a burly adventurer mocks the two girls, dismissing their strength and accusing them of deceit. He sneers at their low stats and even insults the mysterious maid Scent, implying they've resorted to unsavory means to survive. His cruel taunts only deepen the resolve burning within our protagonist. With a swift, unexpected strike, the protagonist effortlessly sends the burly adventurer crashing to the ground. Silencing his taunts, her calm, almost amused smile reveals her confidence as she mocks his weakness, questioning how a D rank could fall to a girl with 0 stats. The room falls into stunned silence, the tables turning in an instant. The protagonist confidently reveals her epic tier weapon, challenging anyone who still doubts her strength. The defeated burly adventurer groans in pain as she calmly declares her intention to claim her reward and license card. Meanwhile, onlookers grapple with disbelief, struggling to accept that the seemingly weak girl truly overcame such a formidable foe. As the dust settles, new faces emerge, each carrying their own burdens and secrets. The protagonist stands resolute, her gaze steady, while allies and rivals alike prepare to carve their own destinies. The path ahead is uncertain, but each step will shape the fate of this fractured world. Exhausted, the protagonist collapses onto the bed, letting out a long sigh of relief. The night settles quietly around the inn, a rare sanctuary that welcomes even those like her. She reflects on the kindness they've received. The warm food, clean clothes, and gentle treatment. Something she hasn't experienced in ages. The protagonist notices Milkit's discomfort, recognizing that kindness is unfamiliar to her. Gently, she invites Milkit to stop hiding and assures her they'll go shopping for new clothes tomorrow, offering a rare moment of warmth and hope. The protagonist cheerfully insists that tomorrow they'll buy new clothes for Milkit, declaring it an order from her master. Though Milkit hesitates, burdened by her past as a slave, the protagonist encourages her to relax and enjoy the moment. Slowly, Milkit's guarded expression softens, and she quietly agrees to embrace this rare kindness. On their way back to the royal capital, they discover the corpse of an adventurer. The protagonist explains that it's common to find fallen adventurers whose equipment carries the lingering hatred of their previous owners. These items often serve as a final wish, allowing whoever finds them to claim the gear if needed. The protagonist reflects quietly, her expression tinged with a mix of nostalgia and concern. She wonders silently about Gadio-san and the others, hoping they are doing well. A fierce determination burns in the protagonist's eyes as they extend a hand forward, declaring that what's been done so far is far from enough. The stormy sky and jagged rocks around them mirror the intensity of their resolve to push beyond all limits. With a fierce roar, Zion unleashes his ultimate attack, Prometheus, Forbidden Formula. His power igniting the ground beneath him in a blazing display, his fiery determination burns hotter than ever as he declares the enemy not hot enough. Pushing beyond all limits, meanwhile, a companion prepares to support him, ready to follow through on the plan. The mysterious maid channels her magic, summoning a swirling orb of water energy with focused determination. She commands the attack, Water Meteor. As the massive, glistening sphere hurtles forward, poised to crash down with overwhelming force. A blinding burst of energy erupts, radiating with overwhelming force. The figure at the center stands resolute, surrounded by a fierce aura as the ground shatters violently beneath the impact. Flames lick the edges, hinting at a devastating power unleashed. With a fierce shout, the warrior unleashes a powerful strike, declaring the attack lukewarm as his energy surges. The impact sends a shockwave rippling outward, catching the attention of the nearby ally, whose eyes widen in surprise. The group watches in shock as a massive, ominous sphere looms before them, far from the harmless toy ball one might expect. One ally readies herself, determined to counter the threat with divine protection, while another steps forward confidently, insisting they will handle the situation. The tension rises as they prepare to face the unexpected power of the demons. The armored warrior raises his massive weapon, poised to strike with unwavering determination. Flames flare behind him, matching the fierce intensity in his eyes. This is the moment the arts cavalier steps forward to confront the looming threat head-on. With a fierce battle cry, the arts cavalier lunges forward, his armored arm swinging a massive, flaming weapon. The searing strike unleashes a devastating attack named Prana Shaker, sending fiery orbs crashing toward their target with unstoppable force. The enemy's attack crackles with energy, but the warrior narrowly evades, frustration etched across his face. Meanwhile, the protagonist, Linus Radiance, steadies himself with sharp focus, declaring, "Now's the time." As he prepares to make his decisive move, His impressive stats hint at the power he's about to unleash. The fiery attack erupts outward with overwhelming force, engulfing the area in scorching flames. Linus watches intently, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Meanwhile, the enemy grits their teeth, insisting the heat is still not enough to break through. With a fierce roar, the enemy unleashes a powerful counterattack, shouting "Blaze Soul!" as fiery projectiles surge toward Linus. The ground trembles violently beneath the overwhelming force of the assault, shaking the battlefield to its core. The team braces behind their magical shields as the enemy's fiery assault crashes down. Barely held at bay, one member urgently reminds them that without these defenses, they would have been destroyed amidst the chaos. A calm mage admits there's little more they can do, sparking frustration and blame among the group over the strength of their water magic. The hero, Cyril, kneels on the ground, struggling to use his ultimate weapon. While his comrades express shock and frustration, one urges him to stop dwelling on his failure and to keep moving forward, reminding him he's the only one who can match the demon generals. Amidst the tension, a quiet, encouraging voice calls his name, offering a glimmer of hope. The enemy demon general watches with cold amusement as Cyril summons his power, taunting him for not reaching his full potential, despite the daunting presence before him. Cyril boldly calls out his ultimate attack, Flare Meteor, ready to turn the tide of battle. A fierce warrior bursts into the fray, delivering a powerful strike while scolding the battle-hardened hero for getting fired up. The sudden attack catches everyone off guard, their expressions a mix of shock and surprise as the tension escalates. The fierce warrior, clearly frustrated, scolds Nygas for interrupting, while Nygas, sweating and determined, warns them not to interfere. Tension rises as the two clash in willpower amidst the battle's chaos. The fierce warrior lashes out in frustration, insisting the heroes were on the brink of death. Meanwhile, the battle-hardened hero, sweating and worn, reminds everyone of the strict rule against killing humans, clearly feeling the weight of their restraint. The tension shifts as the warrior reflects quietly, suddenly recalling the severity of their situation. The warrior's eyes blaze with fierce determination as the word demons echoes in their mind, a chilling reminder of the enemy they face. Nearby, the protagonist calls out in concern to Maria, who stands silently with her eyes obscured, ready for what's to come. Meanwhile, a confident demoness smirks, dismissing any chance of negotiation as she prepares to strike. The demon warrior warns the heroes to take their fight more seriously next time, vowing they will meet again. The demoness, confident and composed, bids them farewell with a casual wave, signaling the battle is far from over. The group stands in stunned silence, their eyes fixed on the darkening sky as something unknown and ominous approaches. Confusion and concern ripple through them, with one voice breaking the tension, demanding to know what just happened. The atmosphere thickens with unease, hinting that a new threat looms on the horizon. The protagonist bursts forward with fierce determination, demanding to know where they are as they launch into action. Below, a smaller figure calls out defensively, claiming to have been busy with work, while another character quietly reveals they finished the script some time ago, their expression heavy with unspoken thoughts. The tension between them hints at unresolved conflicts beneath the surface. The mysterious maid hesitantly models a frilly maid outfit, unsure if it suits her. Our protagonist enthusiastically insists she looks great, refusing to let her doubt the design. Their contrasting reactions reveal a tender moment of support amid their uncertain journey. The maid, still uncertain but touched, quietly reveals that the outfit she chose was her favorite from her old master's place. Our protagonist proudly reminds her of the care she took cutting her hair, sparking a gentle moment of connection between them as they continue their walk through the bustling streets. In the quiet library, the maid reveals she cannot read, making books useless to her. While the protagonist offers a book meant for her to learn, they discuss the importance of reading to use her scan ability, emphasizing that learning holds no harm. The conversation grows serious as the maid quietly asks if the protagonist wishes to become independent of her, leaving an unspoken tension hanging in the air. The protagonist admits they haven't thought that far ahead and lack the confidence to be alone. They reassure the maid not to worry, acknowledging that gaining knowledge and experience is meant to help them survive independently someday. Meanwhile, the maid's silent plea, "What about me?" lingers as the conversation deepens. The maid's expression hardens with quiet determination, her hand pressed firmly against the bookshelf as she declares she won't let the protagonist run away, despite the serious tone. Her eyes reveal a deep resolve to protect and hold on to their bond. The maid struggles to find the right words, admitting she doesn't even understand what faith means. Despite her uncertainty, she promises to stay by the protagonist's side for as long as she can, with quiet resolve, She concludes that this commitment, that steadfast presence, is what she believes faith truly is. The maid quietly reflects on the meaning of faith, admitting she doesn't fully understand it, but senses its presence in simple acts of kindness and happiness, despite her confusion. She holds onto the hope that understanding will come with time. Suddenly, the calm is broken by a loud, urgent shout demanding everyone to get out of the way. As Dean's men dash through the street, a desperate voice calls out, urging everyone to hold up. The urgency is clear. What's at stake is deeply important to the man pleading. Amid the tension, a quiet request is made to keep watch over their bags, a small but crucial act of trust in the chaos. With fierce determination, the protagonist launches herself into the air, eyes locked on her targets. The pursuers, caught off guard, scramble to react as one shouts in surprise. Recognizing the slave girl among them, realizing the challenge ahead, the protagonist admits she can't catch them both. While the men split up, each chasing a different target. The pursuer summons crackling energy, spitting on the ground as he prepares to attack. With a fierce shout, he casts a fiery spell, launching a blazing fireball toward the protagonist. Just in time, she grabs hold of his arm, halting the attack and catching him off guard. With a fierce grip, she seizes his arm midair, halting his attack and wrenching it violently. The man screams in pain as his arm cracks and tears under the force of her hold. The protagonist surveys the fallen man, acknowledging that the strength boost was stronger than she anticipated. As he twitches on the ground in pain, she wonders if she went too far. Suddenly, she senses something and peers around the corner, curious if someone else intervened. A cheerful newcomer appears, casually acknowledging the protagonist's recent victory with a knowing smile. The protagonist looks up, surprised by the unexpected presence and the comment about her actions. The newcomer cheerfully expresses gratitude, flashing a bright smile that lights up the scene. Meanwhile, the injured man struggles to stay upright, clutching a bag as pain clearly weighs on him. The protagonist's surprise is met with a warm, playful laugh from the unexpected ally. The man, still catching his breath, introduces himself as Rich Montcash and explains that he runs a small shop, grateful and a bit nervous. He thanks the protagonist for saving him. The atmosphere lightens as the group begins to exchange introductions, with Flume and Milkit stepping forward to join the conversation. Syra Anvern introduces herself as a nun working for the Origin Church, explaining that it's expected of nuns to fight bad guys. The group discusses what to do with the captured criminals, agreeing they should be handed over to the city guards to prevent them from reoffending. A playful exchange highlights that real punishment is necessary for true reform, while the protagonist is stunned by Syra's impressive total stats. The protagonist's somber words about life's harsh realities leave the group momentarily quiet and reflective. Yet, a spark of hope shines through as one of them, inspired and determined, vows to work hard and make things better with a bright, earnest smile. The mood shifts from sadness to resolve, promising a brighter future ahead. The group agrees that calling a guard or a holy knight is the best way to handle the situation, especially since Flume lives nearby. One cheerful member offers to contact a holy knight she knows, twirling away with confidence. Meanwhile, Flume is quietly observed and described as a good but simple girl, prompting surprise from the others when her strength is revealed to be impressive despite her low rank. The man explains that his wife is bedridden by an illness that magic cannot cure. He reveals that his research uncovered a document about a particular herb that could heal her, but the church, protecting its own interests, has historically persecuted those who produce medicine in secret. Despite the risks of being charged with illicit drug manufacture, he humbly asks for help, hoping his request will be accepted. The adventurer agrees to take the secretive request, understanding the need for discretion since an F-rank adventurer stands out less. Despite the rarity of the herb and the shady nature of the job, the promise of good compensation and avoiding the guild makes the offer appealing. The man, overwhelmed with gratitude, eagerly calls for his companions, hopeful that this could be the chance to save his worsening wife. The adventurer's companions, Johnny and Ed, tease Syra playfully while praising her for the warning about Dean's goons, showing their camaraderie despite the tense situation. Meanwhile, Rich is approached with a serious question, hinting at an important conversation about to unfold. The scene shifts briefly to a cheerful farewell from a young girl, acknowledging the group's efforts. With a calm yet probing tone, she asks if there's an issue, specifically one related to medicine. Her question catches the group off guard, their surprised expressions revealing the weight behind her inquiry. The group is surprised to learn that the adventurer secretly obtained medicinal herbs for the sick woman. Despite being affiliated with the church, she explains that Sister Maria, a kind and inspiring nun who travels with heroes, taught the clergy to help those in need. The adventurer fondly recalls how Sister Maria once showed kindness to her, even though nuns usually keep such matters private. The adventurer passionately insists that if magic can't save someone, medicine should be used without hesitation, though she begs them to keep her words a secret to avoid punishment. The group learns that hidden medicinal herb books still exist within the church, carefully concealed by the bishop. The revelation leaves the man deep in thought, while the woman quietly acknowledges the importance of this knowledge. A heavy truth is quietly revealed. The man's wife has fallen ill, casting a shadow over their lives. 2 days later, the sound of a wagon rolling through the streets signals a new chapter unfolding. The wagon arrives in any city, catching the attention of the group. The cheerful nun insists that helping people is her duty, showing her kind and selfless nature. The others express concern for her safety, but she remains determined to join them on their journey. The group discusses the history of any city, learning it was once wealthy from medicinal herbs before becoming a rural town. They reflect on the human-demon war that began 30 years ago, where the nation's army, aided by the church, fought hard to repel the demons. Despite the church's strong influence and involvement in the war, they paradoxically condemn medicine, claiming it weakens faith or healing magic, leaving the protagonist puzzled by their stance. Syra reveals a mysterious symbol branded on the back of her neck, a mark from her homeland that worshipped a different god. She shares that her homeland was destroyed by demons 8 years ago when she was just a child. A tragedy she barely remembers, but that explains Sister Maria's kindness toward her. As the ominous rumbling grows louder, she quietly announces her decision to leave the party. The group reflects on the painful memories tied to Flume, with one member admitting they only realized they liked her after she left, despite the harsh words and grudges held. A subtle bond lingers as they exchange teasing remarks about missing each other. The tension is underscored by the ominous rumbling in the background, hinting at the challenges still to come. With a calm yet commanding presence, the protagonist fixes their gaze on the maid, breaking the silence with a simple but firm demand. "Speak, maid, to me." The moment carries an undercurrent of authority, hinting at a deeper connection or unresolved tension between them.